is actually, I don't say react, but state barbarically used, mercilessly used lathi charge and firings. That is why in the second phase, from the 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 firing, that is January 24th onwards, you can see spread till September, October, you have continuous firings. In all these firings, 369 people were killed. Most of them were students and youth. Very tragically, some of the students or the martyrs were just 10 or 11 years old people. So you can see the gravity of the repression on Telangana movement in 1969 in the entire phase. The third phase, which we are talking today, is a phase characterized by the political activity. Now the movement, which was completely a mass movement, is entering into a political phase. Do I mean that the activities or the actions happening before were not political? No. That is also political. Why I am saying political activity means it is not the mass agitations which are determining this phase, but it is the politicians, political leaders and the governments which are deciding the movement's dynamics in this phase. That is why I am talking it as a political phase. What is this political phase? Basically in this phase we have some people who are very, very important. First one is the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Second is Chenna Reddy. Chenna Reddy from Telangana Praja Samiti or the agitation side, and Indira Gandhi from the state side. These two are the important personalities which are deciding the dynamics of the movement at this point of time. So, in this phase, we will be talking about happenings between 1969-72, that is after March 1969 till 1972. By 1972, the movement has died down. There was no mass movement. But still, the mass movement's repercussions, consequences and result can be seen till 1979. That is why I have taken this period from April 69 to 1972. In this topic, we will be talking about how the movement is continuing, though political activity is also beginning simultaneously. And second aspect is the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's attitude towards Telangana. What she was thinking about Telangana, whether she was sympathetic towards Telangana demands or adamant. Third point is her new formulation, that is the first formula which is known as 8-point formula. To checkmate the movement, she came with a new formula which is known as 8-point formula. Then comes the temporary withdrawal of agitation. Telangana movement started with hunger strikes and entered into a massive unrest stage. And finally, the temporary withdrawal, a declaration itself is happening that we are withdrawing the movement temporarily. So the temporary withdrawal of agitation will be discussed. Then last one is victories of TPS, that is Telangana Praja Samiti, and merger with Congress. Thus, one phase of 1969 movement is completely coming to an end. First of all, we will see what are the things happening after March, major events. Konda Lakshman Bapuji resigned on 28th March. He was trying to convince the leadership, convince the state Congress leadership at the same time, trying to convince the central leadership too in favor of Telangana, but he could not succeed. That is why we can see his statements even after this. He was talking about sub-state in Andhra Pradesh also in the next phase. We will be talking about it today. So, Konda Lakshman Bapuji resigned on 28th March. On 1st April, in Lok Sabha, Nizamabad MP M. Narayana Reddy has initiated discussion on Telangana. So, Lok Sabha started discussing about Telangana. This is the same man who was talking about referendum in Telangana. The same M. Narayana Reddy was an ardent, staunch Telangana leader. Even in the last phase of the movement, he was active in many meetings. He was discussing with the people of the latter stage who do not know what was Nehru saying at the time of merger. M. Narayana Reddy, a staunch supporter of Telangana. So, M. Narayan Reddy's introduction or initiation in Lok Sabha for discussion is another important activity. On 10th April, see, by this time what is happening? Telangana Praja Samiti is already there in shape and TPS is leading the struggle. There are more activities, actions, the streets are laid with the activities and actions of the agitators. As a result, what has happened? The state is coming with brutal repression and Telangana has become topic of the day. It is hitting the newspapers. So, the state law and order is a very serious aspect. So, because of this, Indira Gandhi immediately called the leaders from both the regions. On 10th April, leaders met Indira Gandhi. From Telangana side, we had Chenna Reddy, V.B. Raju, N. Ramachandra Reddy, Nukala Ramachandra Reddy, J. Chokkarao. Among these people, you can see Chenna Reddy, a congressman, was not with the movement in the first 100 days of Telangana agitation, but gradually entering into movement. V.B. Raju, starting from Burgula space, 1950s itself, he was a settler in Hyderabad and he was taking the side of anti-Telangana in many ways. But he was entering into Telangana always in all phases. We can see him. And in the last phase also, he is opposing Telangana demand. And V.B. Raju, but unfortunately, he is representing Telangana. Valluri Basavaraju. Then Nukala Ramachandra Reddy. Then Chokkarao, TRC leader, Telangana Regional Committee's leader. So, these four were representing Telangana cause in the talks with Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. From Andhra, the leaders were 𝗂𝗽𝗍𝗻𝗃, who was initiating the next phase 1973 Jayandhra movement. This time he is opposing Telangana. And when Indira Gandhi came to Hyderabad, he was talking all the things like it is nothing but anti-social activity and all those things. But the same man was starting Jayandhra movement when Mulki rules are against Andhra. So, 𝗂𝗽𝗍𝗻𝗃. Damodaram Sanjeevayya, ex-deputy chief minister. And Kottapalli Raghuramaya, a minister. So, these three people were representing Andhra cause at Indira Gandhi's place. So, Indira Gandhi, after the deliberations, discussions with all these leaders, is clear-cut understanding. She had a very clear-cut understanding and adamant understanding, I wanted to say. She was never in favor of Telangana. She was always saying no for separate Telangana. Whatever you can do inside Andhra Pradesh, it's okay. But no separate Telangana. She always opposed the demand of separate Telangana, and in this regard, she is coming up with the first magical wand, as she thought, that this 8-point formula could work out and Telangana people will stop fighting for the separate Telangana. So she came up with a new formula which is known as 8-point formula. She declared it on 11th April after the completion of the talks with the leaders. And she said, this is aimed at the development of Telangana region. She also met Brahmanand Reddy along with these leaders. And in the deliberations, many of the critics clearly say that she was influenced more by Brahmanand Reddy than our Telangana leaders. So, that is why in the formulas, in 8-point formula, she was referring to, according to the suggestion of the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, was consistently talked about. So what do you mean? She was influenced, or she was taking the suggestion of Brahmanand Reddy and coming up with the ideas of 8 points. So let's see what is this 8-point formula. What are the main points, 8 points? Do these 8 points satisfy the Telangana agitators? The first point is, a high power committee shall be appointed with a retired or sitting Supreme Court judge as chairperson. A high power committee with a person retired or sitting Supreme Court judge. This is the chairperson. And next, an economist who is having the knowledge of state's resources, economic resources. Number 2, he'll be the member. And a representative of Comptroller and Auditor General, this is the 3rd member. So with these 3 people, Indira Gandhi has put forth the first formula to constitute a high power committee. What for? To decide the surplus of Telangana. Surplus of Telangana is always a crucial thing. In gentleman agreement itself, we have clearly mentioned from Telangana side that the surplus of Telangana should be spent on Telangana. Andhra is usurping it. The surplus of Telangana is being spent on Andhra's development. This is the main contention when we talk about surplus. So, to address this issue, Indira Gandhi has come up with this formula. And this formula fixes that the report should come by May end. Means most probably 1.5 month time it was there for this committee. Second point, discussions should be done. Who should be participating in these discussions? Discussions are deliberations. The Finance, Home, Ministries and Planning Commission and the representatives of the state government. Finance, Home, Planning Commission. Finance is definitely involved because the surplus or the amounts to be allocated to Telangana will be discussed in this. Second one is Home Ministry. Why Home Ministry is important? Because it is the home affairs which deal with law and order, at the same time all the rules formulated in the state. So Home Ministry. Next is the Planning Commission, which will be allocating the funds to the states. Apart from these three, the representatives of the state government should sit together and they have to discuss and decide to provide funds to supplement the loss to Telangana. It is clearly mentioned, to supplement the loss to Telangana. It means actually in every point of time they are clearly accepting that there is loss to Telangana, but no one is taking the charge, no one is taking the responsibility of filling the loss in a better way. They are just digging the holes there itself to fill the loss for Telangana. They are not ready to give Telangana, but they are ready to repay the loss by appointing such committee. So this is the second committee. So second point in 8-point formula is a committee to decide, to assess and decide the loss and repay it or fulfill it. This committee will be represented with the people from important departments, the concerned departments. Then comes the third point in 8-point formula, a regional development committee with the chief minister as the chairperson, a regional development committee. You see, already we had TRC in the form of council in the gentleman agreement, but it could not be done and we have got TRC, that is Telangana Regional Committee. Now she is talking about a regional development committee. Is it not redundancy? When you had one institution, but you did not make it work properly, you consciously killed it, and now we are appointing a committee which is known as Regional Development Committee with the Chief Minister as chairperson. You can see a difference. For TRC, Telangana people will be the people who will be leading it. Now the CM will be the chairperson. So can we expect justice? So CM as chairperson and Planning Commission member, who will be the advisor, Telangana ministers and chairman of TRC, that is committee, will be the members. So CM, Planning Committee member and Telangana ministers, and fourth one is chairman of Telangana Regional Committee will be the members. And what is the nature of this body? This body will be an advisory one. This body will give advices to the state government regarding Telangana issue, Telangana problems, Telangana grievances or Telangana sectors. So you can see a new body is formed, but it's just an advisory body. So it will not be what you call a compulsory. It is not, the onus will not be on the state government to implement whatever they have decided, whatever they are advising. So this is the third point. Fourth point, a committee of officials to implement the plans. There are plans. Now the first three committees, the first 3 points in the 8-point formula are the plans, to be implemented. So to implement the plans, a committee of officials will be appointed. Now this is the committee of officials. This committee will be appointed and it will be chaired by the member from Planning Commission, who is the advisor to the committee which is in point number 3, a regional development committee, and state government too. So the member Planning Commission will be the chairperson of this committee of officials, and representatives from Central, Home Ministry, Finance Ministry and State Government will be the members. So representatives from Home Ministry, Finance Ministry plus State Government will be meeting under the chairmanship of the member of Planning Commission to implement the plans. So this 4th point is to implement what we have decided till first 3 points. Then 5th point under 8-point formula, a central advisory committee under the chairmanship of UPSC to look into the grievances of Telangana employees and make recommendations. Why UPSC? UPSC is part of the ministry which is under Department of Personnel and Grievances. So automatically the service conditions and conditions of the employees, everything will fall under this department. So a central advisory committee under the chairmanship of UPSC member will come into Hyderabad so that they will listen to the grievances of employees, decide upon and advise, make recommendations to the government regarding promotions, service conditions, employment or gradation, whatever they have. So this is to pacify the employees. This point number 5 was given. Then 6th point, more powers to TRC and the bodies formed for the development of Telangana. More powers to TRC means what? Already Telangana Regional Committee had some powers. It means you are accepting that they are not powerful. All the powers given to TRC are not in reality, they are not useful for the development of Telangana. So now more powers to TRC is a general statement. There should be some concrete things. If you don't have concrete things, by saying such words like more powers to TRC, it will not satisfy the demand of Telangana. So apart from TRC, other bodies which were created or which are being created for the development of Telangana should be given more powers. This is what point number 6 says. And 7th point is the central government shall consider constitutional provisions to provide employment for Telangana people, that is Mulki rule. For that, the central government will consult jurists, eminent jurists or a group of jurists. This is what point number 7 said. So this is the related to the employment, Mulki rules, how Mulki rules should be implemented regarding Telangana with regard to Telangana region. So already Telangana movement is based on the Mulki rules. The problem is Mulki rules. Now because already by this time there are many judgments coming up from in different levels like local level, full bench level, Supreme Court and High Court and all these things. We'll be talking about those judgments in a separate topic. All the judgments and committees will be taken in a separate class so that we'll just segregate it for our convenience. So the 7th point is talking about the Mulki rule and consultation with jurists to provide employment for locals. The last point is, again, this is a point related to supervision. The Prime Minister shall hold review meetings with the Telangana Development Committee and other bodies created twice in a year. So, Prime Minister is taking the responsibility for herself, or in future if any other Prime Minister is there, that they will be holding the review meetings with the Telangana Development Committee. Why it is necessary? Because the 8th point is talking about the implementation. So the supervision should be a regular one so that if at all violations are there, that can be corrected. This is the essence of this regular supervision. But all these 8 points are not going to satisfy Telangana status because it is nothing different from the earlier promises. In the earlier phase, we have seen gentleman agreement which was signed and nothing was happening. All the clauses, all the agreements made were completely violated and there is no check and there is no one talking about it. Only at times they said, yeah, it is violated and just proceed without rectifying those things. So people are not accepting this 8-point formula as a panacea, as a medicine for the grievances of Telangana. So neither the Telangana agitators and leaders are satisfied, nor the opposition parties at the national level who are discussing this Telangana movement and central government's attitude in Lok Sabha. They were also not satisfied. All the leaders, starting from Jansangh, CPM and all those people were criticizing the stand of central government. And 8-point formula is not going to bring out a change in the political equations in Telangana. That is what they felt. And Telangana agitators, of course, they have seen treachery again and again. So they are not going to believe that this 8-point formula is going to solve the issues of Telangana. So TNGO said there is nothing new in it. And they already chalked plans for indefinite strike from April 15th. So they said we are going ahead with the same strike plan from April 15th. Konda Lakshman Bapuji, Chenna Reddy, etc. Some people like they are in the forefront of Telangana movement. Whether they are into TPAs or into agitation, they are into streets, it doesn't matter. Their word weighs a lot. Their statements are considered as the statements from Telangana. Konda Lakshman did not agree to the ultimate outcome of 8-point formula. Even Chenna Reddy too said this is not going to elevate any of the position of Telangana. Konda Lakshman at the same time was proposing another thing like a substate inside AP. He was comparing, or he is taking the case study of some state in Northeast, saying that inside a state, another state, smaller state, that is substate. Let it happen and Telangana will be happy. This is what Konda Lakshman Bapuji was thinking at that point of time. So though he was proposing, there is no one to take such arguments. They are very clear that this 8-point formula is going to be the final one, which is going to help to pacify the agitators or to suppress the wishes of Telangana people, because all these things have some mechanisms. So you can see in this also, the first one is a committee for surplus. Second one is a committee for providing, for fulfilling the laws to Telangana. Third one is a committee for regional development. Fourth one is a committee for the implementation of plans. Fifth one is grievances of employees. Sixth one is, of course, powers. Again, seventh one is a committee for mulki rules. So almost 5 important committees will be created, and these committees shall work with the state government, with the central government to address the issues raised by Telangana agitation. This is the essence of 8-point formula. So to implement this 8-point formula, what has happened? There are some things happening. Like AP government has constituted a Telangana Development Committee, a Plan Implementation Committee, so that the plans which are being drafted or talked about will be implemented. They have instituted or constituted, okay, but nothing is moving in a better direction, in a correct direction, because now the other 2 committees, important committees, like Justice 𝗂𝗽𝗀 committee was appointed to look into the grievances of employees. Justice 𝗂𝗽𝗀 was a retired Supreme Court judge, and this man has come with an agenda to look into the grievances of employees. We'll see what was the result. And next, another committee was constituted with Justice 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 𝗵𝗂 to decide the surplus of Telangana. At this juncture, I would like to make a political comment. Whatever committee the central government constitutes when Telangana demands for its rights, all the committees ditched the aspirations of Telangana. I am talking about the last phase of the Telangana movement. And what was the committee? It was Sri Krishna committee. Sri Krishna committee came with a lot of bang, with 5 members touring all the areas in the state, collecting thousands of materials in favor or against Telangana, or in favor of division or against division, you can say. All these things are happening, but no committee has come out except one committee, that too one-man committee, that is Girglani committee. No one did justice to Telangana movement. To some extent, 𝗳𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗺 committee, that is known as officers committee, is also coming out with some specific remedies for the grievances. And Justice 𝗂𝗽𝗏𝗁𝗺 and Justice 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 𝗵𝗏𝗏, these are the two committees, high-powered committees appointed at this point of time. So, what happened with the committees in the latter phase after the deadline, after a given time? Justice 𝗂𝗽𝗏𝗁𝗺 committee submitted its report in August 1969. And for our desperation, for our agony, we can say, it said, the center cannot amend the constitution for mulki rules. And it cites Golaknath case and Article 16. These things speak about no discrimination by the place of birth. If mulki is implemented, what will happen? By the virtue of your birthplace, you will be discriminated. To be an employee in Telangana, any person in the state will be eligible or should be eligible. But if you are amending mulki rules, you will be stopping non-Telanganites coming into Telangana for jobs. So this is what 𝗂𝗽𝗏𝗁𝗺 said. And next, Justice 𝗧𝗦𝗃 𝗵𝗏𝗏 committee, it submitted its report, and this is to finalize the surplus of Telangana. Previously, we had another committee known as Kumar Lalit committee. Kumar Lalit committee came out with one figure, we'll talk about it later. And Justice 𝗧𝗦𝗃 𝗵𝗏𝗏 committee came out with much lesser figure than Kumar Lalit committee. It came out with a surplus of rupees 28.34 crores, 28.34 crores as surplus of Telangana. This is happening in 1969. Remember, we did not get Telangana in 1969. We were getting Telangana in 2014. 69 to 2014, how many decades passed? You imagine how much surplus might have been usurped by Andhra ruling class from Telangana resources. Though, if you say this is a very, very meager amounts, that is 28.34 crores. This also disappointed Telangana leadership. So, because both the committees came out with some report which is not in favor of Telangana demand. So, this is the story about the committees. Then what happened after March? Some of the other major events we will see. This is about the mass movement. These are all government activities, are the activities from state side. From mass side, from people's side, what are the major events happening? That is, Telangana Advocates Association was formed under the leadership of B.C. Jain. Remember, in the last phase also we have an advocate 𝗳𝗍. Advocate 𝗳𝗍 was so active in the last phase of the movement. Even this phase, 69 also, advocates became organized. They were organized into Telangana Advocates Association. On 22nd April 1969, Telangana Treachery Day, Telangana Vidroha Dinam was observed. Vidroham because you are not getting the things. And on 1st May, TNGOs came out with a demand, that is Telangana Demands Day. Janasangh, another political organization, proposed second CRC during this point of time. Another important aspect happening in this period is the first victory in elections. TPS supported candidate Venkatram Reddy won the council seat. And last point about mass organizations activities till now is on 20th May, Telangana University College teachers held a convention which was attended by Jayashankar, Anandrao Tota, Sridhar Swami, all these professors who were active in Telangana movement at this point of time. Now we are into the thick of political activity in Telangana movement. When we are discussing about the agitators, activists, political leaders, we shouldn't forget about the people who were supporting Telangana, those, though they are not from Telangana, they are from different regions, other regions. Especially some people from Andhra also supported Telangana movement very, very strongly. Like we have talked about one Korapati Pattabhiramayya who sat on hunger strike, ex-CPA MLA, along with Telangana people who were doing hunger strike. He was arrested. We are talking about the political leaders from Andhra, like N.G. Ranga of Swatantra Party, whose first resolution to support Telangana was very important. Swatantra Party is the organization which has supported Telangana unconditionally. Its leader in Andhra Pradesh was Gautu Lachana. N.G. Ranga was supporting Telangana arguments, or Telangana leaders, or the people who were fighting for Telangana in Lok Sabha and asking for separate Telangana from the beginning. And other party, that is Republican Party of India, which was started by Ambedkar. Republican Party of India, a Dalit oriented party, wanted president's rule in Andhra Pradesh and change the situation. They were demanding in their central committee meeting, they have resolved that the central government should appoint a commission with a Supreme Court judge to give Telangana. And they were demanding that according to, or as per the States Reorganization Commission, that is Fazal Ali Commission said, Telangana should be separate till some time. Let Telangana be separate. And this was the proposal, this was the resolution they made in their central committee meeting. So these two parties, one is Swatantra Party of N.G. Ranga and Republican Party of India, were strongly supporting Telangana arguments in LS. Outside that also, for example, Jayaprakash Narayan in 2 or 3 times statements, he has supported separate Telangana. Jayaprakash Narayan, a leader of Gandhian principles in the beginning, then he was the leader of total revolution during emergency period in the next phase. These political parties were supporting Telangana without any condition. Then comes a new chapter in the Telangana Praja-Samiti party. Chennareddy, who was away from TPS, not part of TPS, who were leading then, till then, Madan Mohan, Mallikarjun, all these people were the Sadalakshmi, Sridhar Reddy, all these people were the leaders of Telangana Praja-Samiti. And May 22nd, Chennareddy joined TPS and he was made the president of TPS. Because some people who are in TPS already were vehemently propagating or vehemently proposing that Chennareddy should enter TPS and take the leadership into his hands. Because they were thinking that Chennareddy as a political leader, as a mature leader, as a senior leader, starting from 1950s, he was in Telangana politics. So if he is in the leadership, we can achieve Telangana. This was their understanding. That is why there were many songs also in some of the books we could get, like Ravoyi Ravoyi Chennareddy, Ravemi Ramemi Very Chennareddy. They were singing songs. There are songs on Chennareddy asking him to join TPS and Telangana movement and take the leadership into his hands. So this is a new change happening in TPS. But when Chennareddy comes into the leadership, some people who were opposing the political interference into TPS from the beginning were angry. Sridhar Reddy like people who were active in all from the beginning, like Nizam College, or you can take Reddy Hostel meetings. Sridhar Reddy was a student leader who gave the slogan "Quit Telangana." So Sridhar Reddy like people were not in favor of Chennareddy's induction into TPS. So Sridhar Reddy quit TPS and started a rival Telangana Praja-Samiti. So this is another important activity happening in TPS. We will see it, how the TPS is split, again merging in the future course of action. Within 1 year, we can see both the fractions merging into one TPS. So, next point is a separate PCC. A separate PCC, that is Telangana Pradesh Congress Committee, was formed. This was the demand from the beginning. In gentleman agreement itself, there was a provision and there was an agreement on that for at least next 5 years. PCC for Telangana will be separate, but without any caution, without any understanding of violation, the PCC was completely abolished and it was merged with Andhra PCC. Now again, you see how they are retracting their traces. This should not have been done in the beginning itself. Now they are retracting, and now PCC, separate Telangana PCC, was formed. And Konda Lakshman was made as the president of PCC. Why Konda Lakshman? Because Konda Lakshman is a strong voice from Telangana, and at least though he is a strong voice, he is not going out of Congress limits. That is why they felt that Konda Lakshman is a safe bet. So Konda Lakshman can be put as the PCC chief so that Congress will not have any bigger problems if this PCC is there. So this is the thing happening. On 4th June, Indira Gandhi came on a surprise visit to Hyderabad. By 4th June, there were severe repression. There were many firings happening. Just before Indira's arrival on 4th June, there were at least 2 or 3 instances of firings in which at least 20 to 30 people died. Different instances. So Indira Gandhi is getting all the reports of firings and deaths. Paid a surprise visit to Hyderabad suddenly without intimating to the local leaders or state leaders, and she came to Hyderabad, met the leaders and went within on the same day. And when the reporters were asking why you came to Hyderabad, is there any solution you are finding out today? She said, no, to take stock of the situations because I am going on some foreign tour. As the Prime Minister, she was going to some foreign zones. So before that, I wanted to take stock of the situation, so I came. This was the reply. And she is not changing her stand about separate Telangana. Only the thing is, she is trying to understand what more can be done without giving Telangana. That was her stand. Even that was sounded in the press meets in that phase. Then on 7th June, Home Minister 𝗬𝗏 came to Hyderabad, but still you don't have any concrete steps to be discussed. From center side, there are 2 important visits, 2 dignitaries visits. One is the Prime Minister herself, and second one is the Home Minister, who is responsible for the situation in the country. Both visited, but without any remedy or a solution for the Telangana movement. So, as usual, the agitation is continuing in Telangana region. On 17th June, Telangana Women's Day was observed. This Telangana Women's Day was a big hit because many women were participating voluntarily and taking part in the protest demonstrations. Hundreds were there, and like people like mayor, city's mayor, then she was mayor, a woman was the mayor of Hyderabad city, Kumud Nayak. She was arrested for protesting for Telangana. She was arrested at the Nehru statue in Abbots, and 𝗳𝗏 was arrested in Secunderabad. 𝗧𝗏, Republican Party leader and staunch supporter of Telangana, she was arrested. And many women who were protesting, who came onto streets to protest on Telangana Women's Day were arrested. This is one of the important activity of women in Telangana movement. Same time, we were talking about Narayan Reddy, who was actively trying to push the agenda of Telangana into Lok Sabha discussions. We can see again on 25th July, he initiated a private bill in Lok Sabha, that is a referendum to be conducted in Telangana so that Telangana can be granted. Of course, this was a private bill, so you can't expect much results from a private bill, private member bill. So, this is one activity inside the parliament. On 1st November 1969, Agreements Violation Day was observed in Telangana. Agreements Violation Day. Whatever the agreements you made with the Telangana leaders, the Andhra ruling class has violated. So, to remember that, to recount it, and to get the inspiration to fight further, this day was observed. On this day, 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁𝗺 started 11-day fast. 11 days fast. And apart from 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁𝗺's fast, some other people were also sitting on hunger strike. Like one student, young student of 11 or 12 years old, Ramadevi, was sitting on indefinite hunger strike. Mallikarjun, the student leader, doctor, a medical student, Dr. M. Mallikarjun in the latter days, Mallikarjun was also sitting on hunger strike. So these things are the activities happening in 1969 last phase. Then we have to talk about one important aspect. This is also an activity. When we talk about the Martyrs Memorial, it is not just a building, not just construction of a pillar, not just construction of a memorial. It is an important activity in all phases of your agitation. Because you see any movement's dynamics. Whenever you fight, the ruling class will suppress it. In the suppression, some people will be losing their lives. When the people lose their lives, the people who are protesting will pour onto the streets and come to pay homage to the martyrs. In that process, they construct memorials for the fallen heroes and heroines, for the heroes and heroines, for the martyrs of the movement. So same way, likewise, in Telangana also, till now, hundreds of people died in police firing. There should be a memorial for the martyrs. So, Municipal Corporation made resolutions to construct martyrs memorial for the martyrs. Amarula Sthupam, martyr means Amarulu, memorial Sthupam. Amarula Sthupam or martyrs memorial for the people who died in 1969 agitation. So, the activity is flowing into 1970. On February 23rd, 1970, at the gun park opposite to Assembly, amidst police deployment, heavy police deployment, police was not allowing anyone to enter into gun park. As we saw the same thing in the last phase of the movement. Even in the last phase of the movement, we could see people were not allowed to go to Martyrs Memorial and they were completely fenced with the barbed wire. And people were not allowed to go and pay homage and start your agitation. Why it is so important? A Martyrs Memorial is so important because you draw inspiration. A Martyrs Memorial will be a place where you are going to take inspiration, a meeting place, and people will get to know each other and get organized into the agitation. So here, because of that, Martyrs Memorial, construction of Martyrs Memorial was obstructed by the government. They were not allowing the people, though it was a resolution of the Municipal Corporation. Again, it's a body, it's a constitutional body. Though the elected body, Municipal Corporation, is making a resolution, the government, Andhra Pradesh government led by Brahmanand Reddy, is not allowing the people to come and lay the foundation stone for the Martyrs Memorial. So this was the situation in 1969-70. Repression begets revolt. Revolt begets more repression. Again, your higher movement will start with the repression. This is the dynamics of the movement. So even constructing a memorial is an activity. That's what I said now. Belongings of the martyrs were collected by two people. One is 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗃 with the help of his friend Williams. This martyrs memorial should not be just a structure of brick or stone. It should have some memories of the fallen heroes or heroines. That is what they thought. So 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗃, the man who really sowed the movement, separate Telangana movement, as a journalist, 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗃 and his friend collected the belongings of the people who died and gathered it, and in the night itself they went and buried the belongings there in the in the earth, and there on the next day the foundation stone was laid. What were the belongings? Books, certificates, and some pens or some belongings of the fallen martyrs. So the Martyrs Memorial now you see are standing on the belongings of the martyrs, like any Buddhist stupa. On Buddhist relics, you have Buddhist stupa. Here, the Martyrs Memorial at Gun Park has the belongings of the fallen martyrs of 1969 movement. Mayor S. Lakshminarayana laid the foundation. Though police were opposing, they tried, and finally they could reach to the spot and laid the foundation. Then the mayor was 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗃 of Hyderabad. Then Dr. Nayak, Nagan Krishna Rao, Chinna Reddy, T. Anjaya or E.V. Padmanabhan, all these people went and gathered on this occasion and this foundation stone was laid. The second memorial, one memorial is just opposite to Gun Park, opposite to assembly in the Gun Park. The other one is Secunderabad Clock Tower Park. So another memorial was in the offing, like the next day on 24th February, Deputy Mayor Ramchandrayya laid the foundation stone for the memorial at Secunderabad. And the memorial before assembly was designed by 𝗂𝗽𝗍𝗺. Remember this, you may get a question in the bits. 𝗂𝗽𝗍𝗺. It's a wonderful stupa, wonderful martyrs memorial having a clear philosophy to remember the martyrs. So, Martyrs Memorial, foundation stone laying ceremony of Martyrs Memorial was one activity in February that could gather people, that could make the people to resist the repression and go further. And another thing is elections. As I said, we are entering into a phase of political activity than mass agitations. TPS, Telangana Praja Samiti, won Khairtabad by-elections. And this is the direct first victory of TPS because last time their candidate, they have supported a candidate for council. This is direct election in the name of TPS. Nagan Krishna Rao won the assembly seat, Khairtabad assembly seat in the by-elections. Amidst all these political activities, a grand old man who was dreaming Telangana, K.V. Rangareddy, died on 24th July 1970. So, K.V. Rangareddy in last phase, that is 1969 phase, he was giving some statements and advising, but not so active because of his age. And now you can see, he died on 1970 and at that point of time there were resolutions to install his statue, but later also nothing was happening. So, after this, we are talking about the major event in the Telangana agitation of 1969. What is the major event? Withdrawal of Telangana agitation. When you start an agitation, you don't have the clear-cut agenda or idea of how this movement will spread to. For example, when you start a protest in Khammam, it was an indefinite hunger strike. We don't know, or the people don't know who initiated the hunger strike, that this will become such a big prairie fire. Huge protest, entire state is going to be what you call protesting on the streets. Now, the end is coming as in a decided way, because in the beginning you can't decide or you can't plan how the movement will pick up. That is, the dynamics of any movement will be like that. So here in the last phase, because of various reasons, the movement was withdrawn. The first and foremost condition is the conditions are not favorable. Not favorable means you are fighting for the past 1 year, but the center or state is not relenting. And the conditions, you will enter into a fatigue always when you are into a struggle for a long time. So PM Indira Gandhi was so adamant on Telangana demand, you take anything except Telangana. She was not ready to grant Telangana. Why? Because she knows that once Telangana is granted, there will be numerous other demands in other states. She doesn't want to enter into such a situation that new demands will raise in other states and she has to address all those things. Already she is in crisis. We'll talk about that crisis. The crisis is inside the Congress. So she is not ready to take another crisis in terms of administration. So this is very important. So she was adamant. She was always adamant. She was always no to Telangana, separate Telangana. So this is second aspect. Then students losing 1 year is a big drawback. Students lost 1 year, and in this entire process, very interestingly, outside the Telangana state or Telangana region or Andhra Pradesh state, there was bad propaganda going on. Even we used to hear that in some of the newspapers, some of the bigger companies of those times, like DCM, were advertising in newspaper. They will be giving notifications for employment. In that employment, below they will be giving Osmania graduates need not apply. It means Osmania graduates are on war path. They did not read or they did not study. They are rowdy like people. They are completely into agitations. So we don't want indisciplined people. Such things were popular in those days. Osmania graduates need not apply was a tagline along with a DCM notifications for employment. So what happened? Many people from Andhra, the natives of Andhra, those who were studying in Hyderabad, took their children to some other place like Delhi. And they said Telangana is not convenient for studies now. Some of the leaders, popular leaders who are in national scenario today, they were studying in Nizam College, and because of Telangana agitation, his father or their parents took him and joined in Delhi. That is how Telangana's educational institutions were completely under fire by the people. One side from Andhra, other. And at the same time, losing one academic year is a serious thing for studies. So this is another aspect. So internal crisis in Congress is the fourth aspect. Inside the Congress, there was a crisis. The old gods and Congress, Indira Gandhi, there is a contradiction. It is brewing inside the Congress. So that contradiction is not favorable for granting Telangana. We can see in the last phase of our election also, in the last phase of our Telangana movement also, whenever there is some serious agitation, central government or Sonia Gandhi, UPA chairperson, used to give a statement or to inform the agitators or the people that this time we are having elections, so till next 3 months we are not going to take any decision on that. We are having this crisis, so no decision on Telangana. Always Telangana was facing such situations. Crisis in Congress will stop Telangana. That is the scenario. So this is another reason. And last one, which is international. Tensions were brewing between India and Pakistan too. This is 70 and we are having 71 war between India and Pakistan. Bangladesh is going to form. Russia is entering into an alliance with India, supporting India, and international scenario is changing. And in this period, we cannot expect central government to be more active in Telangana state than their own affairs like international aspects like war or mobilization towards Russia. So these conditions are not favorable. In this background, Ch. declared withdrawal of agitation, and they have clearly mentioned that this is the temporary withdrawal of movement. And now we will launch a political movement and not a mass protest, they have said. What do you mean by political movement? Participating in elections is one of the major aspects of politics. So this temporary withdrawal of movement has led to contradictions inside TPS. On 5th December, Ch. was removed from the post of president by 𝗧 𝗦𝗔𝗧. But immediately, within no time, he got re-elected. Because of the withdrawal, there were some contradictions brewing inside TPS. And within no time, this is happening on 5th December. On 21st January, the two fractions of TRS, that is Ch. fraction, the TPS under Ch. and the other group under Sridhar Reddy, merged into one TPS. So this is all political activity happening inside TPS. It has nothing to do with the mass protest or Telangana movement. It is realignment of the TPS forces inside the political organization. So this is the realignment happening in TPS. TPS after realignment, now it is unified. And on 15th January, a protest day was observed commemorating or observing 1 year of agitation of Telangana. Last year, that is 69, in January, in the second week itself, the movement has started with the protest of Ravindra. So coinciding with that week, now on 15th January, they have observed a protest day. Hartal was observed in Twin Cities, and thus the movement, I think this is the last political activity Telangana movement of 1969 had. After this, you don't have bigger or important political activities. Mass protests or hartals are coming onto streets in protest. So now things are completely in changing mode. How they are changing? In 1971, March 5th, elections to Lok Sabha, Telangana 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 by realigning all the forces into TPS, as 𝗬𝗏 is at the helms of affairs, he is the boss now for TPS. Entire Telangana movement, the active members, activists, political leaders who were supporting Telangana or who were identified with Telangana are now into TPS. So all these people at the command of TPS. Now 𝗬𝗏 is steering the TPS into political activity. 1971 elections are very interesting elections for Congress, for TPS too. TPS contested elections on the symbol of ho, that is para. Para gurtuke mi votu was the slogans on the walls in 71. Those who are born in 60s can see, even after 70s, 10 more years, we could see para gurtuke manavotu symbols on the walls of Telangana. TPS was a popular political formation of those days. That is why they won 10 seats out of 14 seats in Telangana. Out of 14, 10 is not a joke for a party which started recently, fighting an established grand old Congress party. Congress won only in 3 seats and another was won by CPM. That is Khammam, Nizamabad and Adilabad were won by Congress. Nizamabad already sitting MP, that is Narayan Reddy, who was for Telangana. So automatically people, though he was a Congress candidate, he won again. And CPM won at Miryalaguda. Bhimreddy Narasimha Reddy, another stalwart of CPM who participated in Telangana armed struggle, won the elections. So remaining 10 won by TPS candidates. Important people like Mallikarjun, 𝗳𝗏 𝗫𝗀𝗃 was there from the beginning, from 1950s. Mallikarjun is a student leader, a product of 1969 movement. Hashim, G. Venkateswamy, popularly known as Kaka in the latter period. S.B. Giri, 𝗹𝗶𝗁𝗺, J. Rameshwar Rao, Vanparthi Raja, V. Tulsi Ram, Satyanarayan Rao, Ramakrishna Reddy, all these were elected as MPs. Indian National Congress was victorious, but it was not victorious in Telangana. Now, in this background, the TPS was forced to merge into Congress. Indira Gandhi forced all the leaders to opt for Congress. Very interesting aspect. 𝗬𝗏 has put forth 6 conditions for the merger. But what has happened? The conditions were nothing but an escape route for 𝗬𝗏, because if 𝗬𝗏 doesn't want the merger also, it will happen. Because out of 10, 8 MPs were already in touch with Indira Gandhi and were ready to join Congress, as Venkateswamy said in the latter period. So 𝗬𝗏 has nothing left in his hands and he has put some proposals like removal of Brahmanand Reddy from the post of CM, Telangana MLAs given an opportunity to see the new ministry and separate Congress committee, reformulating Mulki rules, effective functioning of Telangana Regional Committee, no disparities in the economic development of Telangana. All these are namesake, except, you see, the 5 demands, the latter 5 demands are not so concrete. All these demands are Telangana movement's demands, and 8-point formula is also talking about this. What's new in these demands? Except the first one, change of guard, that is Brahmanand Reddy should be sacked. So, on 15 September 1971, Brahmanand Reddy resigned. On 30th September, P.V. Narasimha Rao was sworn in, the first Telangana minister in true sense. Chief Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao was sworn in as the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. Again in 1972 elections, Congress won because TPS got merged into Congress. And meanwhile, 𝗬𝗏 was appointed as the governor of UP. So, what are the important aspects and conclusions we make out of this 1969 movement? 1969 movement remains as a strong mass protest against Andhra Pradesh. This is mass protest I am calling. In 1952, the protest was short-lived. The protest was limited. But 1969 is much more widespread, much more violent, much more bigger in terms of deaths, in terms of martyrdom, in terms of political propaganda. So 1969 movement remains as a strong mass protest. It has exposed the gravity of injustice, exposed the central government's neglect and bias against Telangana. It has exposed the limitations and the weakness of Telangana leadership too. For example, the political opportunism of Telangana leadership, Congress leadership, was completely thoroughly exposed, starting from Chokka Rao's or Achyut Reddy's flip-flops for Telangana. You can see Congress leaders were not in a position to command in Andhra Pradesh in the government or to make some lobbying efforts with the central government. So this was exposed in this phase. It has exposed the limitations of mass movements also, which was not having political, matured, ideological and physical leadership. Politically matured ideological and physical leadership I am talking about. What do you mean by politically matured ideological leadership? Telangana is the only one cause, but there should be some ideological grooming. Otherwise, you will have many people coming into movement and going out of the movement or taking the direction of the movement into different strides. So this was lacking in this movement, and at the same time it was not having a really matured or a serious group of people who were leading the movement. So though thousands and lakhs of people poured onto the streets in 1969, this 1969 movement ended without achieving Telangana. But lastly, remember, 1969 is not a defeat. 1969 has left us some remnants so that it can be carried further in the last phase of the movement. So 1969 is a very important, glorious, heroic chapter in the history of Telangana against the injustice of